The top stories tonight in Y News. Proposed national budget for next year amounts to 4.3 trillion pesos.
A research group from the University of the Philippines warns that cases in Cebu province might reach 7,000 to 8,000 this month.
Locally stranded individuals that will be transported to Zamboanga City will not spend their 21-day mandatory quarantine in isolation facilities, but in their own homes. More routes for modern jeepneys in Metro Manila open today.
Hong Kong government working on introducing a health code that will allow more people to travel again.
World number 1 tennis player Novak Djokovic tests positive for COVID-19. Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Wednesday, June 24, 2020. I am Herlene Delgado.
Join us in the next 45 minutes as we deliver today's top stories around the globe. I'm Angelo Castro III.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts and our website, untvweb.com. I am William Theo.
Around 4 million more workers may lose their jobs by the end of this year. That's according to the Department of Labor and Employment, or DOLE. During today's Senate Committee on Labor hearing, Labor Secretary Silvestre Bello III says this accounts to 10 to 15% of the country's workforce. The agency noted over 2,000 companies have submitted their formal notices of termination due to temporary closures, while over 160 companies informed their permanent closures, which affected 90,000 workers. However, Bello is expecting possible resurgence of workers in the business process outsourcing or BPO industry and construction industry from the government's Build infrastructure program. In a bid to prevent further layoffs, DOLE is proposing its wage subsidy program for employers worth 40 billion pesos.
We will talk to the employers. Huwag kayong mag-dismiss. We will shoulder 25 to 50% of the salaries of your employees. Yun ang aming sasabihin sa ating mga employer. And this will help in protecting and preserving the employment of our workers.
Meanwhile, the Overseas Workers Welfare Administration, or OWA, is worrying the sustainability of its funds amid the crisis. OWA Administrator Hans Leo Kakdak says they have spent over 1 billion pesos for the accommodation of repatriated OFWs in the country, including food, transportation, and hotel accommodations. It is also set to spend 2.5 billion pesos for the financial assistance package worth 10,000 for OFWs and an estimated 4 to 5 billion pesos for the 150,000 OFWs expected to be repatriated in the coming months. The administrator says they have requested for a supplemental budget worth 5 billion pesos to sustain its accommodations to repatriated OFWs. If the current COVID-19 situation persists, the administrator says its 18.8 billion peso trust fund will be down to 10 billion by the end of this year and to less than 1 billion by the end of 2021.
We really need guidance from the Senate. We are not quite sure whether we should hold on to the money given that 2021 may be worse, or go out and provide the fullest assistance to the OFW.
The Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA, also fears its 1 billion peso assistance to Nationals Fund will run out by the end of August, noting that the funds have been overstretched already for facilitating stranded Filipinos in other countries. Secretary Bello further noted over 59,000 OFWs have been repatriated, while another 42,000 have expressed intention to go back to the country. 345,000 OFWs were affected by the pandemic. 191,000 of them opted to stay overseas. Meanwhile, the proposed national budget for next year amounts to 4.3 trillion pesos, according to Budget Secretary Wendell Avisado, still focused on responding to the present health emergency. Our Malacanang correspondent Rosa Licos will explain why.
The Department of Budget and Management has been preparing the proposed national budget for next year. DBM continues its technical budget review of budget proposals the various departments and agencies have submitted. And in July, it will conduct an executive budget review. The government's budget priority focuses on its response to the coronavirus pandemic and programs that will provide assistance to Filipinos affected by the COVID-19 crisis.
Ang ating pong proposed budget for next year ay nasa 4.3 trillion pesos. Tumaas ito bahagya dahil this year nasa 4.1 trillion tayo. Umakyat ng mga konti lang.
DBM targets to submit the 2021 proposed national budget to the President's office on July 27, either during the State of the Nation address of the Chief Executive or in the second week of August. Meanwhile, the government has disbursed 355.67 billion pesos in its effort to combat COVID-19, of which 247.21 billion pesos came from pooled savings. The national government is expected to spend more due to the persisting health crisis in the country. Rosa Licos, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
A research group from the University of the Philippines warns that cases in Cebu province might reach 7,000 to 8,000 this month. Meanwhile, COVID-19 cases in the Philippines may not reach 40,000 as earlier projected. Our health correspondent Aiko Miguel explains why.
The transmission of coronavirus disease 2019 in the Philippines at present has an infection rate of 1:1, or the 1.2% R naught. This is what appeared in the study of the University of the Philippines Octa research team, who first showed the 40,000 projection of COVID-19 cases earlier this month. In the program Get It Straight with Daniel Razon today, Dr. Guido David said that if the 1.2 R naught is sustained, there is a great chance the 40,000 projection will not happen.
Mukhang baka hindi naman umabot ng 40,000 pero medyo malapit siya. Umabot mga 37 to 38,000 sa ngayon yung trajectory niya.
This is why the group reminds the public to be extra cautious and observe the minimum health standards, especially now that more people are allowed outdoors.
So habang mas merong mobility yung mga tao, tumataas din yung rate of transmission niya. Habang mas magkakalapit yung mga tao, opportunistic kasi itong virus. Kaya importante talaga itong mga social distancing natin, wearing of masks, and yung personal hygiene.
Also, based on the UP Octa Research Group's projection, COVID-19 cases in Cebu province might double because of the continuing spike of COVID-19 cases.
Yung sa Cebu, medyo makalat pa nga yung transmissions na medyo mataas pa. Sa ngayon, sa buong province na Cebu, by end of June, we're looking at mga more than 7,000 to 8,000 cases.
Dr. David also explained one of the factors that experts see why there is faster and wider transmission of COVID-19 in Central Visayas and the National Capital Region is that the number of asymptomatics being tested remains low. Currently, the Department of Health is prioritizing to test asymptomatic people with travel history in countries with COVID-19 cases, those with exposure and close contact with COVID-19 confirmed cases. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, Philippine Ambassador to Belgium Eduardo Jose A. de Vega last week visited officials from various institutions in Belgium who are attempting to develop a safe and efficient vaccine for the COVID-19 virus. The embassy team was welcomed at the Rega Institute of KU Leuven by Professor of Virology and President of the International Society for Antiviral Research. and other officials. According to the Foreign Affairs Department, the Rega Institute is currently developing RegaVax Corona, a live attenuated reagent developed in cultured cells that is based on the yellow fever vaccine, which has been safely used on 800 million people over past 80 years. Professor Nates emphasized they are targeting for the vaccine to only require one shot as opposed to 2 or 3 shots. The research team showed a considerable interest in the Philippines, and they said that they are also developing drugs for rabies and dengue, which they know are prevalent in the country, citing problems encountered with the previous dengue vaccinations. Belgium and the Philippines share special historical links, and it would be another milestone if our experts could work together to benefit all humankind, Ambassador De Vegas said.
100 COVID-19 patients will be enrolled in a clinical trial of another drug, which is sponsored by the Japanese government. Aiko Miguel is back to tell us why.
The Department of Health awaits the clearance from regulatory bodies to start the clinical trial of Avigan. This is an anti-flu drug from Japan believed to be a possible cure for COVID-19. According to DOH spokesperson Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere, it is possible that the Avigan clinical trial will start next month.
We are just waiting for the Ethics Committee clearance, the SJ-REB para dito sa Avigan trial protocol. And then we will go through the regulatory clearance of FDA, and hopefully pagdating ng July, sana mga second or third week makakapag-umpisa na tayo ng Avigan trial.
100 COVID-19 patients will be enrolled in the Avigan clinical trial. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe has recommended the anti-flu drug and sponsored 38 countries, including the Philippines. Avigan, according to Shinzo, helped alleviate symptoms of more than 300 Japanese COVID-19 patients.
The second trial that we are about to start would be the Avigan trial. No, this is in with the help of the Japanese government. Nagkaroon tayo nitong Avigan ng mga medicines.
Currently, there are 330 COVID-19 patients in 21 hospitals in the country who are undergoing clinical trial using the drug combination recommended by the World Health Organization. The Philippines has also manifested its intent to join WHO's clinical trial for COVID-19 vaccine. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The country's Foreign Affairs Department reported 27 new confirmed COVID-19 cases in Asia and the Pacific and the Middle East. DFA's report also included 50 new recoveries and 4 new deaths from the said regions as well. There were no reports received from Europe and the Americas. Now the total confirmed cases among Filipinos abroad has reached 8,351. 2,767 are undergoing treatment. A total of 5,072 have recovered. But the death toll is at 512 among our nationals inflicted with the disease. The DFA continues to monitor the status of our nationals abroad and assist them amid the coronavirus pandemic whenever possible.
And let's now take a closer look at the updated count of coronavirus cases around the world. The COVID-19 pandemic has now reached a total of more than 9.2 million confirmed cases in 188 countries, regions, and sovereignty. That is an increase of over 165,000 from yesterday's count. The fast-spreading disease has claimed an addition of around 5,000 lives globally, bringing the death toll to more than 477,000 worldwide. Meanwhile, more than 104,000 patients have recovered from yesterday. Now the total recoveries from the coronavirus infection is more than 4.6 million.
Meanwhile, the country's Department of Health says that 470 new cases were reported today, including 357 fresh cases and 113 late ones. That raises the total confirmed cases of coronavirus infection in the Philippines to 32,295. That is, as of 4 p.m. today. We have lost 18 more patients. But through our fervent prayers, medical interventions, and sacrifices of our medical frontliners, 214 more people have won their battle against the invisible enemy. That brings the total recoveries nationwide to 8,656. Thanks be to God.
Manila City celebrates its 449th founding anniversary today. Among the city's occasions, it's the groundbreaking for a new 10-story Ospital ng Maynila. Mayor Francisco Isko Moreno Dumagoso and Vice Mayor Maria Sheila Hani Lacuna Pangan led the ceremony. The 2.3 billion peso fully air-conditioned facility will house 384 beds, 12 intensive care units, 20 private rooms, and a helipad. The project is part of the Build, Build, Build Manila program. Also, 20 newly donated police patrol cars were paraded on the city roads. More police vehicles would mean improved police visibility, Mayor Isko said. The patrol cars were distributed to the 11 police stations in the nation's capital. The Bureau of Fire Protection, or BFP, now has the swab test results of BFP Region 6 personnel tested for COVID-19 following the controversial incident involving the so-called Bora 28. Leia Ilagan has this story.
176 personnel of the Bureau of Fire Protection, or BFP Region 6, including some of the so-called Bora 28, have tested negative for COVID-19. BFP Director Jose Embang Jr. says they are awaiting for the swab test results of 20 other BFP personnel out of 196 who have undergone swab test. The BFP personnel who had tested positive for the disease earlier have been subjected to another swab test but have yet to receive the outcome.
Nag-reswab ulit siya, kasama pa siya doon sa 20 remaining na hindi pa na-release.
Embang adds, those who tested negative will still need to satisfy their 14-day quarantine before returning to work, except for the so-called Bora 28 who have been relieved from their post pending the investigation.
Na-relieve na rito yung regional director at saka tatlong officers at saka yung mga ibang non-officers. Yung ibang kasama ron, naka-quarantine, hinahanapan kung saan sila dadalhin, pwedeng outside region or outside the regional office kasi hindi po kayang alisin lahat yun eh. Mapaparalyze po yung regional office. Ang importante ay yung mga key officers na kasama doon sa Bora 28 ay andito na sila sa Metro Manila.
The controversy in BFP Region 6 started when some personnel went to Boracay hours after the IATF inspection team left the island. Allegedly, they held a farewell party in one of the hotels in Boracay. One member of the group had tested positive for COVID-19. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Locally stranded individuals that will be transported to Zamboanga City will not spend their 21-day mandatory quarantine in isolation facilities, but in their own homes. This as the city's facilities are now inadequate to receive all individuals who will return to the city. Only the returning OFWs and symptomatic persons will be taken to the isolation facility for medical attention. Mayor Beng Climaco appeals once again to the IATF Chief Parliamentary Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. for the installation of additional quarantine facilities and modular testing laboratories in the city as approximately 5,000 Malaysian deportees are arriving. Galvez, for his part, has committed to coordinate with governors to make an entry point with the interconnected provinces to reduce the influx of people in Zamboanga City. Labor Secretary Silvestre Bello III says he will raise to the Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases the appeal of the families of overseas Filipino workers in Saudi Arabia who died of COVID-19 to bring home their remains. During today's Senate Committee on Labor hearing, Bello says the number of OFWs in Saudi Arabia who died is now at 287. 107 of them died due to COVID-19. Saudi Arabia earlier gave the Philippine government 72 hours to bring the remains home, but Bello said he asked for an extension. It will be up to the IATF to decide whether to reconsider the initial decision to bury the remains of OFWs in Saudi Arabia, as cremation is not allowed in the kingdom.
Medyo malakas ang panawagan ng mga kamag-anak na kung maaari iuwi pa rin sila. I will make the presentation tomorrow to the IATF to decide finally kung lahat iuwi namin o iwan pa rin yung mga COVID-related death.
3 barangays in the municipality of Santa Rita, Pampanga province have been placed under a partial lockdown after several residents tested positive for the novel coronavirus disease. Entry and exit are not allowed in the said barangays. One resident of Barangay San Basilio is among those confirmed cases, another in Barangay Dila. 2 persons in Barangay Bekuran also tested positive for the disease. Contact tracing and swab testing of persons who may have had contact with the patients have been conducted. Entry to and exit from Santa Rita municipality are now controlled. The town's Eco Park has been closed.
The guidelines for the limited face-to-face classes in areas under the modified general community quarantine will soon come out. Dante Amento tells us why.
The Commission on Higher Education, or CHED, and the Health Department are working on the guidelines for limited face-to-face classes that will be implemented in areas under Modified General Community Quarantine, or MGCQ. CHED Chairperson Prospero de Vera III says the guidelines will be submitted to the IATF in the latter part of June or early July. Once approved, the plan is to visit schools to test the physical arrangements of classrooms next month.
So the guidelines would be detailed guidelines on spacing of seats, what to do in the cafeteria, protocols for students, faculty coming in, what happens if somebody is sick, etc.
De Vera adds, some areas in the country will implement a blended learning system. CHED stresses that the minimum health standards must be strictly observed in universities and colleges in MGCQ areas. Consultations with the local government units must be done.
In some areas, you will see a combination of online and limited face-to-face. So that limited face-to-face will still use the regular library of the schools, depending on the health situation on the ground.
Also, the Commission says that reports of face-to-face classes pilot tests happening in July are not true. This is because the IATF against COVID-19 still has not authorized any class opening next month. Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Several Maynilad and Manila Water customers complain over spike in water billing during ECQ. Joe Anano tells us why.
Leonardo Librado, a Maynilad customer, is complaining over his water bill. His 3-month consumption during the ECQ period spiked to more than 7,000 pesos. Susan Castro, a Manila Water customer, has the same sentiments. Her household's monthly consumption in the past 3 months increased to more than 300 pesos per month.
Sobrang laki. Hindi ba? Maski anong pagtitipid namin gawin ganun pa rin.
Malaki ma'am yung bill namin. Tapos wala naman kaming trabaho, wala na kaming ibabayad. Sinisingil kami ng Manila Water ng hanggang July 30. Wala naman po kaming ibabayad dahil naka-steady lang kami dito sa bahay.
The two water concessionaires, Manila Water and Maynilad, explains that the spike in the customers' water billing is expected because of the summer season, as well as the fact that members of the families are at home the entire day during community quarantine.
Una, dadagdagan po ba sila ng bilang ng tao na nag-stay po sa bahay during ECQ? Yun po mga nakonsumo po nila o kinukonsumo nila dati sa opisina, paaralan, sa mall, kung saan pa mang lugar po, inilipat po yung mga konsumo na yun doon sa bahay. At dahil naging maingat din po tayo during ECQ, gusto natin lagi tayo nagdi-disinfect.
Traditionally or historically, pagpasok mo ng summer months, no? So, mainit ang temperatura. So, talagang nagkakaroon tayo ng pagtaas sa konsumo ng tubig pagdating ng mga panahong yan. No?
The water concessionaires explains that customers may pay their water bills on a staggered basis, or they may apply for a promissory note at their business centers if they cannot pay until the deadline. For its part, the Metropolitan Waterworks and Sewerage System, or MWSS, will conduct an investigation on the complaints over the surge in customers' water bills. Joanna Ano, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Department of Budget and Management assures that the government will fund the blended learning program of the Department of Education for the next school year. Vincent Arboleda will tell us why.
The Department of Education is coordinating with the Department of Budget and Management on the implementation of the blended learning program. DepEd Undersecretary Jesus Mateo said early this June that additional funding will be needed to properly implement the new learning system. DepEd will utilize different technologies and various ways to teach students across the country under the blended learning program. These include the use of internet, television and radio stations, and printed materials. The President has also mandated that face-to-face classes will not be implemented until there is no vaccine for COVID-19. Budget Secretary Wendell Abisado in a press briefing today said that education is one of the government's priorities in the 2021 proposed national budget. Abisado added the President understands that there are far-flung areas in the country that have no connection to the internet.
Si Pangulong Duterte na mismo nagsabi na kung kailangan natin bumili ng mga transistor radios at ipapackage natin ito in terms of the students and the pupils na maririnig kahit nasa transistors, marinig nila yung mga pagtuturo na gagawin ng ating kagawaran ng edukasyon.
DepEd conducted a meeting with the DBM early this afternoon to coordinate with the much-needed funds for the implementation of the blended learning program and support kits needed in far-flung areas.
Makakaasa po ang ating mga kabataan, lalo na yung mga nasa malalayong lugar, na magsisikap po talaga ang pamahalaan na kahit sa ating sitwasyon ngayon ay makapag-aral kayo at the same time malayo naman kayo sa peligro.
According to DBM Memorandum Number 136, the Education Department has a budget ceiling of 475 billion pesos for fiscal year 2021. Vincent Arboleda, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The transport sector opens more routes for modern public utility jeepneys in Metro Manila, but the limited number of modern PUJ units deployed in some routes impedes public commuters, especially during rush hour. Asher Kadapan Jr. will join us this evening to tell us why live. Asher, good evening.
Good evening, Harleen. As the transport sector provides a calibrated and gradual mode of transportation amid the threat of the pandemic, 9 more routes for a modern public utility jeepney in Metro Manila were opened today. 3 of the routes utilize the Parañaque Integrated Terminal Exchange, or PITX, stretching in the southern area of Metro Manila, while the other routes provide transport options within the areas of Manila and Quezon City, among others. These new routes are in addition to the 15 routes initially opened last Monday. Despite the newly opened routes, commuters still experienced long queues at the PITX terminal today. According to PITX Corporate Affairs Head Jason Salvador, This is mainly due to the limited number of modern jeepney units deployed in every route.
Ang dinideploy muna nila ay pangilan-ngilan na mga units nila upang pakiramdaman kung ano yung demand ng ating mga kababayan. Kasi ayaw naman din nilang palargahin ito ng basta-basta kung wala rin naman silang kikitain. Dapat natin maunawaan na may agam-agam din yung ating mga pampublikong sasakyan dahil sa ngayon nga, nag-ooperate sila at half capacity.
With a total of 24 routes already opened for modern TUJs, the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board is set to open 10 more new routes on Friday, the 26th of June. Arlene?
Asher, so what are some of the health and safety protocols that are being implemented in the operation of modern jeepneys in Metro Manila?
Arlene, cashless payment system using smart cards and mobile apps are being used to observe contactless transactions. A smart card costs 100 pesos and it already contains 50 pesos credit that can be instantly used by passengers. Prior to boarding a jeepney, commuters are required to provide their name, address, and contact number for contact tracing. Arlene?
All right, thank you so much, Asher Kadapan Jr., for that report. Jago William, we are on board the UNTV radio mobile booth and we are here in EDSA northbound lane in Kamuning, Quezon City. Let's take a look at the situation on the road. Jago William, for vehicles traversing the northbound lane of EDSA coming from Cubao going to North Avenue, expect a light to moderate traffic ahead. And so far, we also have a light traffic situation on the other side of the road along EDSA southbound lane. And for our weather update. The easterlies are affecting parts of the country. State Weather Bureau Pag-asa says the weather condition is affecting the eastern sections of Visayas and Mindanao. Meanwhile, Metro Manila and the rest of the country may experience partly cloudy to cloudy skies with isolated rain showers due to the easterlies or localized thunderstorms. Pag-asa adds possible flash floods or landslides may occur during severe thunderstorms.
Phivolcs is closely monitoring the activities of Mount Kanlaon, an active volcano on Negros Island. Residents are warned against entering the 4-kilometer permanent danger zone. One of our senior correspondents, Ray Pelayo, explains why.
Mount Kanlaon is one of the most active volcanoes in the country, lined with Pinatubo, Taal, Mayon, Bulusan, and Hibok-Hibok. It is located in Negros Island in western Visayas. Based on the observation of the Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology or Phivolcs, the volcano recorded abnormal activities especially last Sunday and Monday. Earthquakes were felt and the volcano spewed ashes. The OST Undersecretary and Phivolcs Officer in Charge, Renato Solidum, explains these activities may be attributed to a fault. They are now observing it if the tremors will move under the summit.
Itong pagkilos ng fault ay posibleng sanhi dahil sa pag-pressurize ng lugar sa Kanlaon Volcano ng hydrothermal fluids or pagpapakulo ng tubig kundi kaya ay mas malalim pang magmatic activity.
Based on the studies on rock samples from the volcano, its last lava episode was in early 1900s. In the 1996 eruption, 3 persons who went up the volcano died. Yusek Solidum says Mount Kanlaon is non-comparable with the Taal volcano when it comes to activities, though a major eruption is possible. Alert Level 1 has been raised over Mount Kanlaon since March 2020.
Kung ang tanong mo ay mabilis yung escalation, wala tayo nakikitang ganong history sa Kanlaon based on recorded history. Pero yung posibilidad na magkaroon ng mas malakas na eruption ay nandun, katulad ng Mayon Volcano. Taal Volcano, hindi naman sila paroon na setting.
Phivolcs warns that entering the 4-kilometer permanent danger zone is strictly prohibited. Ray Pilayo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And for the news abroad, here's Stephanie C. live from Hong Kong. Good evening, Steph.
Good evening, William, and to Diego and Harleen. How are you?
I'm okay, Steph, doing well. How are you? I hope you're doing well as well. And what have you got for us tonight, Steph?
William, today I will tell you why travelers here in Hong Kong will need to secure a certificate that will prove they are negative for COVID-19. Also, why a residential area in Verl, Germany has been sealed off. And the reason for Russian President Vladimir Putin to increase the tax rate for wealthy Russians.
Okay, Steph, go ahead and tell us why.
Hong Kong Chief Executive Carrie Lam says the Special Administrative Region government is working with Guangdong and Macau on introducing a health code that would allow more people to travel again. Lam explains she fully understands and recognizes the difficulties and sentiments of Hong Kong people who cannot travel because of the anti-coronavirus measures. She also notes that exemptions have been made under the compulsory quarantine of certain persons arriving at Hong Kong regulation for those in sectors where cross-boundary travel is essential. Those categories include truck drivers, government operations, people involved in the anti-epidemic work, and people who have a factory in mainland China. Lam said the health code actually means that you need to have in your possession a certificate to prove that you have a COVID-19 test, which is negative, then you can travel without this 14-day mandatory requirement. As far as the timing, they want to do it as soon as possible, the Hong Kong chief executive said. A residential area in the town of Verl in Germany was sealed off on Tuesday, its residents put into compulsory quarantine after a coronavirus outbreak at a meatpacking plant nearby. A fence was set up surrounding the area. Some residents were tested by medical staff outside their buildings, while others watched from their windows and were handed toys and wet wipes by staff on the other side of the fence. Verl Mayor Michael Eskin said it was the only solution he could come up with, given that many plant employees live side by side with neighbors who work elsewhere, increasing the risk of contagion for the whole community. Also on Tuesday, the head of the Robert Koch Institute for Public Health, Lothar Wheeler, said local outbreaks had been a major factor behind a spike in the last few days in the coronavirus reproduction rate, currently estimated at 2.76. A reproduction rate, or R, of 2.76 mean that 100 people who have contracted the virus infect on average 276 others. The USA, which still leads in terms of total confirmed cases, now has over 2.3 million, including more than 647 recoveries. But it also has the highest death toll, now at more than 121,000. Brazil trails with the second highest total cases and most death cases, now at more than 52,000. The Americas remain to be the epicenter of the disease. Elsewhere in Japan, Tokyo's new coronavirus cases climbed to 55 today, public broadcaster NHK said. The highest tally in 1.5 months after a cluster of infections was found at an unnamed office in the Japanese capital. The metropolis, with a population of 14 million, has sought to keep new cases below 20 a day after Japan lifted a state of emergency on May 25. Speaking before the latest figure was reported, Tokyo Governor Yuriko Koike had warned of a large number on Wednesday as more positive test results followed a cluster of 7 infections previously found at the office. Clusters in the workplace have become a big problem lately as people have emerged from the capital's stay-home initiative, she told reporters earlier. In all of Japan, about 18,000 have tested positive and 965 have died so far from the COVID-19 illness. Globally, more than 9.26 million people have tested positive and some 475,880 have died.
Meanwhile, President Vladimir Putin raises income tax for wealthy Russians and offers new state handouts to families with children. This comes days before the country votes on reforms that could keep him in power until 2036. In a televised speech to the nation yesterday, Putin said, Russia's response to the coronavirus crisis had saved tens of thousands of lives, and he ordered the extension of several support measures to cushion the economic fallout. Deviating from a flat 13% tax he himself introduced almost 2 decades ago, Putin said the wealthy would now pay 15% on annual income over 5 million ruble, or more than $72,000, and that the additional cash would go towards helping sick children. The move will be introduced from January next year. Putin also proposed cutting tax on its company's profit to 3% from 20%.
The men's world #1 tennis player has tested positive for COVID-19, he said in a statement on Tuesday. Djokovic's fitness coach Marco Panici and Dimitrov's coach Christian Groh also tested positive. Novak's brother and director of Adria Tour, George, explained that Novak was not obliged to stay and get tested in Croatia as he did not feel any symptoms. Three-time Grand Slam champion Andy Murray, on the other hand, said it's not surprising how many players have tested positive, seeing images and the videos from the tournament and the players' party with no social distancing in place. Online selling has been in demand since the implementation of the community quarantine in different parts of the country, and many Filipinos have ventured in this kind of business to earn extra income. If you're one of those who want to start an online selling business, here are some of the products that you want to consider selling. Monhok Son reports.
Food is a daily essential most people cannot live without. And food tops the list of top-selling products online during the community quarantine period. That's according to shopback.com. So if you have talent in cooking, why not impress others people's palate while earning extra? Don't worry, because you can rely on online delivery services for orders you accept. Just make sure of the quality of food products to keep customers coming back to your online food store. Second on the list are grocery items. Most residents are aware of the danger outdoors, so they follow the stay-at-home orders, so they depend on the internet even for their groceries. For starters, if you have enough capital, you can buy grocery items in bulk and post what you can offer on social media. Your neighbors and people within your community can be a target market. Third on the list is sportswear. People, even at home, are into physical exercise nowadays, and they want to be dressed for the workout even when indoors. You might as well post a video of yourself wearing your sportswear product while doing some exercise yourself. Next up are medical care supplies. If you know how to sew or stitch, you can learn how to make face masks. Many people want to be fashionable while following the mask policy. Be creative in your designs too. You may also add rubbing alcohol, personal protective equipment, and other hygiene supplies. And last in our top 5 best-selling items in this community quarantine period are shoes. According to online shops, sales of shoes have spiked recently. If you're a sneakerhead, why not turn your hobby into a business? Isn't it nice to do things you want and at the same time earn from it? Keep in mind, the pandemic still lingers, and we need to adjust to live and earn money. Always do things with dedication and commitment, and don't forget to put our trust in the Lord in everything we do. Monhok Son, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And those are the reasons behind the news, June 24, 2020. I am Harleen Delgado. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I'm Angelo Castro III.
And I am William Theo. Because we need to know, we will always ask why. Have a great evening, everyone.